Well, greetings and salutations, folks. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second and night ending bonus upload. Before we jump on into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They all were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things, they really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's second and night-ending bonus upload, shall we? All right, folks. So, as of a while now, I have been really deep diving into the Luciferian agenda and alien/demon relations, and a lot of other things. The other day, I talked a little bit about Gilgamesh, the epic adventure there, and some other things. A while ago, like 4 years ago, I had a gentleman on the show. He was an associate of Dark Waters, an associate of mine, and he had been running Dogman cams at the time, a second channel that Dark Waters had, and he and I started talking one day, and he shared a lot of really interesting things with me, things that I knew, things that I wanted to look into. He is a former law enforcement, and actually he had gone to seminary school. He was ready to become a Catholic priest. So I dug deep in the archives and I found this old interview, and I was like, wow, I have not heard this in a long time, and it has got a lot of crazy information. So let's jump into this. I have John Bell with us this evening. John, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're still hanging in there.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So pretty much John and I talked about a week ago and decided that we were just going to do an upload because a lot of you guys liked John for his religious knowledge. He had talked about angels being under the Euphrates, conspiracy stuff. Like he's kind of got a little pot of knowledge in front of him. So I guess we're just going to have an open discussion about anything and everything.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So, speaking of the angel from Euphrates, I remember you saying something that you ran into somebody recently at a gas station or something.
Oh, well, what happened is, I found a guy's channel on TikTok, and this guy was just like a truck driver. And this guy was a truck driver on TikTok, and he's just shooting the shit about different stories and, some conspiracy stuff, talking about, hey, what's going on and, politics right now, it's getting crazy, that kind of stuff. And then he says, he does this one show I came across where he said he stopped to get gas one night at this truck station, and he sees this other truck driver, but the guy was odd looking, the truck driver. He looked like he was trying to dress as a civilian, but he could obviously tell that from a military background, that this was a military guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so went up and said some military kind of stuff to him that only someone who was in the military would recognize, you know? And they got to talking, and then all of a sudden, this guy starts telling him about some crazy stories, and then he goes on to tell him, "Hey, you heard about the prison camps underneath the Euphrates rivers, right out there, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I heard something strange about that." He said, "Yeah, well, even the locals are scared to death to be in these prisons because they talk about all these weird voices they hear and just feels evil down there." He said, but he had knowledge that he was part of a team that went down there and found an angel that he claimed was chained up underneath this prison out there under this river. And he gave the exact location. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I can try and find it, but he said that he said this thing was chained in like gigantic chains, and it was huge. Like this thing was massively huge. And I don't know how much more of the story he went into it, but I had heard the same story before that I had mentioned on one of my shows I did on my channel. And the story went that this guy that was with a military team was investigating this sub levels of this prison, and he found this one large chamber room, whatever, where he found a giant angel. And when I say angel, this thing was like, I'm like 30, 40 foot tall kind of thing. He said it was sitting down and it had chains all over it that was holding it to the ground. And he said the chains are massive. And he said the thing had wings, gigantic wings. And he said the thing spoke to him and said, basically said something to the fact of, you're not supposed to be here. It's not yet my time. And then he was asking him, is it my time yet? Is it my time? It's not my time to be freed yet. So he was acknowledging that at some point, sometime, it was told to him that he would be freed to do like whatever it was he was going to do once he's free. He kept saying my time. And something else that made me think about is other stories I've heard of other similar cases of giants and things that they found are in stasis pods and stuff like this around the world. And they say that they're waiting for a specific time, when for some event.
Right.
So
yeah, some sort of possibly like a biblical event.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, what's crazy is you think angel in chains. It's almost unimaginable that an angel could be kept in chains.
Right.
Like with humans being around them, you know what I mean? Like this military team and stuff like that. It's very odd to hear that. But it's a story that has been talked about for a long time now. I'd say,
yep.
30, 40 years at least.
Right.
So it's pretty nutty. What is there any religious, because you are, a man of the cloth, is there any kind of religious context to why an angel would be under that river?
There's actually in Revelations chapter 9, it says at one point that God says release these angels bound under the Euphrates River. And then it says that they will kill 1/3 of humanity. So I'm not saying that's the direct reason or purpose, but it's certainly a possibility. I don't know that it's the same location even. Now that this ties into something that's a bit deeper I've been following, and that's the fact about you familiar with Tom Horn and Stephen Quayle? Those
Quayle?
guys?
Yeah. Actually, I just got into them because a subscriber. This is amazing. A subscriber sent me a video clip about how and it was a very short video clip, and I aired it on my channel, and I'll tell you the quick story about this, and then you can finish up where you were going. But it just said like the government was using werewolves, and I was like, I wonder who else talks about that. And,
right.
So then a subscriber of mine who I've made really great friends with almost all of my subscribers that I communicate with, she has sent me probably, wow, she sent me Little Creatures by Stephen Quayle, True
Yeah,
Legends,
right.
a bunch of other books.
He got a whole series. I can tell you his story. By the way, I met him in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, him, Tom Horn, Stephen Quayle, L.A. Marzulli, those guys. Um, anyway, they did their first conference in Branson, Missouri, which was the Gen 6 conference, and I went to that conference, and that's where I spoke to him. And I've listened to Stephen Quayle for years because I was an old fan growing up listening to Art Bell back in the day, right?
Right.
I loved Art Bell's what got me on to all this stuff, you know. So he was like the internet before the internet of conspiracy theories, you know. So, but so that's how I'd been listening to Stephen Quayle way back since and all his material. Now, when I talk to Stephen Quayle, he tells his story about how he got into this, and that was he said he was a young kid in college studying film production, and he said he was just a party kid and you know didn't think much about anything, you know, like a lot of young people at that age. And he said that one day he's in his room and he sees this person standing in his room, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he said this person says, "I'm Jesus." And he was like, "Oh wow, okay." He said that Jesus told him that in the future he was going to warn his people about a lot of things that were coming, and he was going to start this production company that was going to do that. And he was like, oh, okay. So that kind of guided his direction, and he started taking his faith more serious after that event, or started taking it serious. And he said that they created Gen 6 Productions, and they've done a fantastic job. And they've got an entire tape series on DVD and everything else. They really have a great marketing model because they've created content directly for the audience, and have been able to generate revenue enough to keep their company afloat. He even told me, because I told him I was interested in doing film and making movies on this kind of stuff, and he told me, he was like, well, let me tell you something, man. He's like, you know how much it takes to make one of these films, like even just a low budget film that we're sending straight to an audience? I mean, still saying it takes, you know, several $1 million. You know, it's not it's not small time stuff. I mean, it's high level, but they've created a great market. I have most of their material. I bought most of their books when I was at the conference. Spent way too much money. I've seen most of their videos from L.A. Marzulli, from Stephen Quayle, and all the stuff they've done on Genesis 6. And yeah, they've done a masterful job of proving that that basically that Nephilim walked the earth in the pre-flood days, and that there were giants, cannibalistic giants, that roamed around the earth. That the Smithsonian in modern science that follows Darwinism and schools and universities don't want you to believe. They don't want you to believe that anything from the Bible could be correct, or sources from the Bible like the Book of Enoch that explains the history of the giants.
Yeah.
So
there's the book. I don't know if you've got this book by Stephen Quayle. It's called True Legends: Tales of Giants and the Plumed Serpents, and it's got this enormous.
I do have a True Legends book. I don't know if it's that specific one, but I do have True Legends.
Enormous giant, like chasing buffalo. Like he looks like a Native American, and then it's a great book. But then I got a box. One of my subscribers sent me, like, I was so blessed, you know, like sent me this huge like care package from the, I think it's, what was it, Sky News. The Black Awakening, the Rise of the Satanic Super Soldiers and the Coming Chaos.
Oh yeah.
My dad saw that book, and he like literally took it, and he gave it back to me a week later, read the whole thing. It's like 700 pages, written by Russ Dizdar.
Okay, I don't know.
He's with those guys too now. But it's really, really fascinating stuff. And like you said, they make stuff right directly aimed to people like us, you know? Like,
directly to the, they built a financial model that's worked, that I wanted to duplicate, or just hoping to, that, they do direct to audience sales, and they've been able to raise enough money to fund their programs and pay for their families and lives, But, a lot of people always complain in this business about, oh, you're just about money. No, it's not about being just about money, but people have a right to support themselves and their family,
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of monetary things going into this stuff, like, like electricity, Wi-Fi,
Right.
printers,
And if
printer
people
paper,
want
computers.
information, they need to support people that are spending the time and money to go and access that stuff, because it doesn't pay the bills,
Right. Yeah.
which everyone has, especially with the cost of living today going up, as we see, especially with travel costs, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of that, what's the gas down in Louisiana?
I just got gas, and normally my tank is about $40 to fill, and today it was 67.
Jeez, I'm crow.
Yeah.
That's
So, and
crazy.
that's on one vehicle. On another vehicle, on my truck, it's probably going to be. I haven't filled it up yet, but it's probably going to cost me about $400 to fill up.
Yeah, diesel, right?
Yeah, it's a diesel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I got a little
So,
Forester, and it cost me like $65 to fill that.
right,
And that was just
right,
87 at 4.39 a gallon.
right, right,
So
right. Yeah, it's crazy that Stephen Quayle and all the angel stuff. But see, in the book of in the New Testament, Jesus says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it shall be again at the end." Well, it begs the question: what was it like in the days of Noah? And if you go back to Genesis chapter 6, which they built their whole company on, Gen 6 Productions, Genesis 6 is that very strange lines in the Bible where it says, the sons of God found the daughters of men attractive, and they took amongst them wives such as their choosing. And the Nephilim walked on the earth on those days and after. Okay, so those two lines. Now, those are very cryptid. And in Catholic and Protestant seminaries, they don't teach that correctly. I would
right.
challenge any theologian in the world on that issue. What that's referring to, I claim, as well as many others, is that that's referring to the sons of God, is referring to the angelic realm. And it's explained in the book of Enoch. And the book of Enoch explains what happened in those two lines, where 200 fallen angels came down on Mount Hermon, which still exists today, and they chose that they were jealous of humanity and that we could have wives and children. And they, through unnatural means, we don't know how, but they created children with human wives. And those children ended up becoming different creatures, monsters, most of which were giants and cannibalistic giants. And as the cover of that book you spoke of, that's talking about a true story from American Indian legends, where these American Indian tribes were dealing with these red-headed giants that were attacking their people and eating their people. And so finally, all the Indian tribes united together to try and attack and wipe out this little clan of giants. And they got them to recede into a cave where they were hiding. And so they started a fire in front of the cave to try and smoke them out. And when they would come out, they would all gang up on them to kill them. And the Indians said that, they were really trying to make peace with these creatures if they would stop eating the Indians. But that just wasn't going to happen. So eventually they decided they just had to kill these things. They described them as being over 9 feet tall at the bare minimum, but very large. And they had red hair, double rows of teeth, and 6 fingers on each hand and each foot. And that's why, we're all grown up being told, hey, Indians raise their hand and say, how, when you meet them, right? Well, the reason that is so they could count your fingers from a distance and tell if you were human or not before they got too close. That was the whole purpose of that thing. At least I would argue. Another thing that's neat about this story is later I was researching this thing, and I found an investigator who went into this cave in modern day. We know where it is. And he showed a photograph that he took of a handprint on the ceiling made of soot. Because remember, the story was they were smoking them out with fire, right? There's a sooty handprint to this day. And he put a tape measure on it, took a photograph of it, and it was 19 inches long, this hand. How crazy is that? 19 inches long. So, so there's plenty of stories like that. And then you've also got the newer stories of the Giant of Kandahar, which L.A. Marzulli does a fantastic job of trying to trying to expound on that story, where he did eyewitness testimony with one of the soldiers that was present at the scene, and then also with the helicopter pilot that came out to pick up the giant when the encounter was done. Are you familiar with that one? The Giant of Kandahar? Jeff? Hello? Did I lose you? Okay. I don't know if we're still live, if you're having complications or not. So, you still there? You there? I heard something.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, good. I didn't know if I lost you or not. But have you heard of the story of the Giant of Kandahar?
Yes.
So yeah, L.A. Marzulli, there was a team of soldiers went missing in Kandahar in Afghanistan, and so they sent out a special forces team to go investigate. They come to the mouth of this cave and they find this guy's what we call TA-50. It was just like their LCD stuff, their radios, their equipment, some of the web gear they're wearing. Found all that in a pile at the base of this cave, and then they said that this giant comes out of the cave and with a pike or spear stabs one of the soldiers in the chest and lifts him up off the ground. All the other soldiers lay in a fire in this thing, and he said they took everything they had to bring this guy down.
Yeah. I did a couple of shows about it.
Okay.
And, was it a Marine team or was it Army Rangers? There's conflicting stories, though.
Conflicting stories to it, yeah. But being that there was an SF team sent out, it was more than likely probably a Rangers.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
What happened when you heard something? What happened was when we were talking about Stephen Quayle, and I have a bookcase or a small little bookshelf above my stand here, and I was taking books off to when I was talking to you about them, and they all just started falling. So that's what I was doing.
That's great. So now fast forward where this gets super crazy. Okay, super crazy. Is Steve Quayle talks about how there was this news article that ran across the BBC that came from Assyrian News and then rebroadcast across the BBC, and it's harder to find today, but I still have some screenshots of it and stuff somewhere. But anyway, they claim that they found the body of Gilgamesh, King Gilgamesh.
Oh wow!
All right, and this was insane. Because up until that point, we had thought that the King Gilgamesh, for those who don't know, comes from the epic story of Gilgamesh. It's literally the oldest epic in human history.
Which is one of your favorite stories, because ever since I've met you, you've talked about it.
Right, I always talk about Gilgamesh, right. It was sad as I was bringing on a host to my show. We were lining up a show to do with Rob Skiba to talk about Gilgamesh and some of his findings, because his research matched mine. And so I found him after I had finished my conclusions, and I was like, oh, wow, there's actually other people that came to the same conclusion. In fact, he does it in a better way, I think a more elegant way than I did with mine, or the way I tell the story. I think he was just better at it. But he came to the same conclusion, so I was trying to get him on the show, and we were nailing down a time when he would come on, and he said, well, I'm going to this conference first, and then I'll come back and come on your show. I still have the email from this. He goes on the conference, he gets COVID, and he dies.
That's incredible, man.
And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. This is insane, right?
Yeah.
And it freaked me out. But anyway, back to Gilgamesh. So they found this body. Now, they thought that the story of Gilgamesh was just fantasy until they found this body. Now, something that's very interesting about the story of Gilgamesh is it's a completely secular story, but it still gives an account of Noah's flood, which is huge. That's gigantic, right? And even ancient Indian tribes, actually not tribes, I'm missing the word. People from around the world and their cultures all have ancient flood accounts that fit eerily similar to the Noah's.
Native Americans do a lot of, exactly.
Right. So with this with this flood, and that's accounted in the book of Enoch, or in the story of Gilgamesh. I'm sorry. So with Gilgamesh, and the story of Gilgamesh was found on clay tablets that's written in ancient cuneiform Sanskrit that was found in the library of Assyria in the place of Nineveh. All right, and that's important because you remember the story of Jonah and the whale, right? So Jonah was sent by God to warn Nineveh they would be destroyed by God if they didn't convert. Well, Jonah didn't like the Ninevites and didn't want to convert them or warn them. He wanted them to die. So he's like, oh, I'm not going to go do that, and tried to run away from God's command. And that's when he was trying to flee on a boat, and he got thrown overboard, and he was swallowed by the whale. And as he's in the belly of the whale, in the deep of the ocean, he's thinking, I think I might reconsider that thing that God asked me to do. Right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
He gets it out. He goes and warns Nineveh. Well, that's the same place where these tablets come from. And see, too, until they discovered the city of Troy.
Yeah.
A real city, an archaeological site that they discovered. So they recover the body of Gilgamesh. Now, Stephen Quayle said he received a call from someone claiming to be a special forces soldier, like a Green Beret or something to that effect. And he said that he was present at the site for the recovery of the body of King Gilgamesh. All right?
Wow.
And he said that his orders were to preserve the DNA at any cost. So if we got to wipe out a whole country, doesn't matter. Preserve that DNA.
Yeah. And
he said, if I remember correctly, they found a couple of bodies there. They said they were all giants, and they were shipped off by the military to unknown locations. Now, here's something else that's crazy to that story. I later came across a source of Hillary Clinton, where someone was pointing out that she was making a request to the federal government, and in the request she said, I request access to the information and the remains of the body of Gilgamesh that was discovered.
Really?
Yeah, and she went on to say the Nephilim.
That's crazy because, like, you and I have talked about the whole Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard supposed thing with 11 or it's like 9 months later Hillary Clinton was born, some demon thing, like it's a conspiracy, but that's strange that she would be involved. Not really, actually, now that you think about it. She's kind of a
Barbara Bush is rumored by many to have been a daughter of Aleister Crowley.
Wow, really?
Yep.
That's incredible.
It is known.
Crowley's an evil man. He was an evil man, but he was fascinating.
Oh yeah, he was very fascinating. He's one of the most fascinating people that ever lived, but also one of the most evil men that ever lived.
Yeah, I remember when I probably 16 or 17, and I stumbled. Actually, I was 18, and it was after my Dogman encounter, and I went to a bookstore, a used bookstore, to find information, because there was no computers. It was like 1994. I ended up getting Diary of a Heroin Addict, which was Crowley's book.
Okay.
And then I got like a Charles Bukowski book at the same time. But like that Crowley book really opened a lot of doors to research, a lot of things to read. Because at that point I was just like, whoa, what's this? And, what is alchemy? And, oh my God, because as a kid, you don't really know anything like that until you really stumble upon a great book like that. And then you realize how evil of a person he truly was.
Oh, yeah. He claimed that himself.
Yeah, that's wickedest man alive.
Yeah, that's what he called himself, and he truly was aspiring to achieve that,
Yeah.
In his occult rituals and some of the things that's attributed to him. But I've never found somebody that was more influential in more places in the world and revolving in these high circles of the most influential people that I have than that man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It seemed like he was in every secret society known to man. You know, like it
Right.
was unbelievable, and he knew everybody. That's
Right.
being the most wickedest man alive. You think a lot of people would shun him, but a lot of people were attracted to him for
Right.
that purpose. Like, I mean, even Jack Parsons was like his protege, kind of. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were trying to outdo each other
Yeah.
in some of the rituals,
Yeah.
and that were higher level rituals that happened to take place in the 1947 in the Roswell type area. You
Yep.
know.
Let me ask you
So
something. The
yeah.
Gilgamesh thing. What do you think the whole purpose of the military wanting the DNA to of King Gilgamesh? Do you think it'd be to bring to the dumbs, and what
Well,
would be the purpose of it?
normally I would say absolutely to that question, except not in this case
Okay.
because he's special. He's special. Um, I did 6 hours explaining this on my show in a 2-part series that got me in a lot of trouble, by the way, and got me death threats and all that kind of silly stuff. But anyway,
Really?
yeah. But that was because I mentioned some occult groups out there that don't like to be mentioned and tied them into the prophecy of all this stuff, and Aleister Crowley.
Okay.
Uh, but anyway, I did a show. I did 2-part show on the identity of the Antichrist. All right, and it doesn't do it a lot of justice. To it's not like you can just say, well, people are like, okay, well, who is it? Who's the Antichrist? Who is it?
Yeah.
You can't just say it's this person or that person. It's not that simple. It doesn't work that way.
No.
At least what I claim, and other if you will, researchers that have come to the same conclusion, and that is basically, I claim in all my research. Now, it doesn't make sense just to say it off the top of your head, but what I do is I do basically a lecture from ancient pre-flood times, and then bring that slowly to the present and in full circle, and then it makes more sense to where a logical, reasonable person can say, "Oh, I can see where you could say this or make that claim," and it kind of makes sense, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, I claim that the Antichrist is the return of the original Nimrod who built the Tower of Babel. Okay.
Right.
And God said, first of all, Nimrod was a giant. He was a Nephilim. He was angry at God for having caused the flood that wiped out his people. And he was building the tower with the help of fallen angel technology and knowledge to basically, it was not a tower to reach the skies. It was a stargate. And it was an interdimensional portal. He was trying to open the gates of hell to the imprisoned angels and demons and allow them back into our world, to give them direct access back into our world and back to us. And the Lord said, I have to intervene and stop this because they have the ability to do what it is they're trying to do. They actually have the ability they're trying to do. And they were saying they wanted to storm heaven. It doesn't mean that they're going to storm heaven where God is, but it means it's going to storm the church militant, which is us, which is a part of heaven. The devil wants to destroy God's people and wants to keep them, if at all possible, from attaining what he lost and going to heaven, right? So this is the heaven that he wants to destroy. So God said it's not yet the time, the day, the year, the hour for this to take place, and he stopped it. But that begs the question, when is the right time, day, hour, year? Because I claim today, and we can circle back to this later if you want, but I claim today the Tower of Babel has been, in fact, rebuilt for it to perform its original purpose. However, getting back to Nimrod, so Nimrod, I claim, is the Antichrist.
Okay.
Now, Nimrod is not a name. Nimrod is a title. And it's a title that means great warrior before the Lord. Now, that sounds favorable, but it's not. It means one who makes war against God and his people. Okay? So what happened is Noah, when you had Noah and the flood, right? Right after the flood, remember there was a big sin that occurred? Remember that?
Yes. So
one of his sons, right? Remember that had caused a problem, and Noah didn't curse his son who had already received God's blessing, but he cursed his son's son and his son's grandson.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
His son's son was Cush, and his grandson was Nimrod, the cursed of God. Okay, so and they built essentially, which was the New World Order, the one world order at the time of civilization, which Noah could see from his mountaintop down to the Tower of Babel and what was going on in modern society at that time. Okay. You see, so it all interconnects, even though it's crazy. But again, Nimrod is not a name; it's a title. So it begs the question: who is Nimrod? What is his actual name? Now, 6 hours later, I'll just tell you with no justice, I believe it's Gilgamesh. I believe it's King Gilgamesh. If you look at stories of Gilgamesh and Nimrod, they're very similar. They almost perfectly overlap. They don't, but they almost perfectly do. So, by the way, similar thing with the story of Hercules, Orion, and Orion's belt, the great hunter. Very similar. And I think there's a reason for that. It gets very confusing when you try to study ancient things on the Antichrist, because of the fact that because of the Tower of Babel, all the languages were mixed, right? So because of that, every culture has different stories and names predicating the same person. That's why in the Bible it says his name in Greek is Apollyon, or in Hebrew is Apollyon, and in Greek is I gotta mess that up. In Greek it's Apollyon, which in Roman is Apollo, right? And it states that in these different languages, it's different names, right? And it's for that purpose. So I claim that Gilgamesh is the Antichrist, that was Nimrod. If you look at pictures today of statues of Nimrod, they're the exact same statues if you look up statues of Gilgamesh. Right. It's the same.
No, I remember me and you had this conversation when we first met, and you had me do that. So, but we didn't have this conversation about the body of King Gilgamesh. So,
yes,
him being the Antichrist, are you suggesting that they find the body, they bring the body to a lab, possibly cloned the new Gilgamesh? What's the correlation?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. So everyone, when people are like, who's the Antichrist? They're thinking, oh, is it this person? Is it Barack Obama? Is it Trump? Is it this person? Is it that person? No.
Right.
The prophecies, the ancient prophecies say that he will return out of the abyss. In fact, the Bible itself, Rob Skiba points out in his program that the Antichrist rises up from out of the abyss. So where does the Antichrist come from? It's not a human. He rises up from out of the abyss.
Like a second coming of Christ.
That's it.
Yeah.
In fact, you just hit the nail on the head. Because think of this. What is God's greatest great achievement over the devil?
Jesus and creating humans.
That's correct. But his greatest achievement was Jesus rising from the cross. Remember, the devil thought he got over on everyone by putting Jesus to death, right?
Right, yeah.
But by Jesus raising to life, triumph of the cross, the resurrection, that was God's greatest achievement over the devil. So you learn in theology, when you study theology, everything the devil does is to mimic and mock God. He knows God. So what do you think the devil is obsessed with? He's obsessed with the resurrection of his son.
Right. So you did this, I'm going to do this better, and I'm going to... Right. Yeah, now it makes sense.
So what God does naturally through grace, the devil has to do through science, through pharmakia, through occult ritual. You see what I'm saying? To achieve a same or similar effect, if you will. So yes, I once heard a story that the Illuminati, the Satanists, had better accounts of the Book of Enoch than we did. So I got an idea one day. I was like, well, let me try and go find some of their stories that they tell people and see if it doesn't if it can't give me any more light on the Book of Enoch, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't find that, but what I did find is I found a woman who claimed that she converted to Christianity, and she said that she was in the Illuminati, and her job was to train the history to their children of their family as far as being in the Illuminati. And she claimed that there was ancient Atlantis and Lemuria, and that God sent a prophet to them, telling them that if they didn't convert, they would be destroyed from the planet. Sound familiar?
The Great Flood.
Right, right. So she said that this is the basically even before that story of Atlantis, right?
Yeah.
But said that she would I guess it wouldn't be before, but still, she said they killed the prophet and God destroyed Atlantis and Lemuria. But the Illuminati as well as the Nazis believed that they were survivors from those refugees that fled Atlantis and Lemuria back in the day.
Yeah, I
But
did a
another
show
thing,
about that just recently with
oh wow,
like
wow,
the talking about the Nazi not underground but under the ice shelves in
right.
the Antarctic, and
Oh,
a lot of
Newman,
information was coming from
right. New
ancestral.
Schwabenland,
Hmm.
New Schwabenland.
Yes. New
Yeah,
Schwabenland.
right, right. The Nazi base after World War II, and that's all. Yeah, that's all ties into the secret space program thing.
Yeah.
But back to what you had mentioned. So another thing this woman with the Illuminati said is this. She said that they had a thing that they did called rituals where they would call walk-ins. And she said that they would do human sacrifices where they could take a person and sacrifice them in an occult ritual to where there would be separation from the soul from the body. But right at that moment, there was this magic moment where she said they could get a demon that they summoned through an occult ritual that could then take over full possession of the body and walk around like you and me, and no one would know the difference. And she called this a walk-in. However, she said that this was not a perfect process, that it was very laborious to the invading soul, the demonic soul, if you will, and it wasn't permanent because the body would kick it out eventually. Now you ask how and why is that? Well, think about this. If you have a heart transplant, what do you have to do for the rest of your life?
My dad had a double kidney transplant, and he's on anti-rejection medicine for the rest of his life.
There you go. There you go. That's it. See, the body knows every part of your body is on an electromagnetic frequency, like a combination lock, right? And the body knows when you have another part, like for example, say I try to stick my hand through my desk. I can't do it. Why? My hand is nothing but a collection of atoms. The desk is nothing but a collection of atoms. Why won't my hand go through the desk? There's actually something repelling that force. When the more I push, the more it repels. That's electromagnetic frequency. There's an electromagnetic combination that says this is my hand and that this is my desk. And without changing that frequency, you can't alter that without causing damage to my hand or the desk through force, right? Violent force. It's the same thing. So the body knew that the invading demon did not belong. That's why it was laborious, and the body would try to reject even the demon on an unconscious level, even the way God designed it. So she said, but they found a way past that. They found a way to perfect that. You know how that was? DNA. If they could find the DNA of a person and reclone that using modern technology with the CRISPR technology everyone's heard so much about recently. With the Human Genome Project and the CRISPR technology. And she said, though, that they could take the DNA, they could produce a clone, because what happens, that DNA from that clone has the same DNA as your soul. It's the same combination. It's the same combination lock to it. So you can take possession of your own body from with your soul, even if it's cloned in that sense. So she said that's why do you think that ancient and fallen angels taught humans how to do mummification process of their pharaohs of past?
So there would be no stealing of the DNA.
It's so that they could preserve the DNA to come back in the future. And then I actually came across an article one day in a like Popular Mechanics type.
Wait, really quick, just not to. So, but the angels. Why would the angels teach that to humans? Wouldn't it be demons wanting to teach that to the humans?
Yes, that's a good question. It's more of a complicated answer, but they had soul ties, and some of these humans have given themselves over completely to these demons. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, they can have full possession. So, and they do this with a genetic line that they're looking for as well, that's conducive to this and to their nature. And so it's a complicated answer, but yeah, there's humans that have see, you can lose your self possession and not be human by opening yourself in occult rituals and inviting all these demons in and to take over.
Yeah.
But in case in point, I don't think Hillary Clinton's a human being. I really don't.
I don't either, to be honest.
Yeah, and see, that would be an example of something that's called like a perfect possession, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have this ability. Now, when you do it through a self-will kind of thing, that you're wedding yourself to this horrid nightmare, well, then the body, it doesn't have the same ability to reject it as it did otherwise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And every pharaoh was considered to be a reincarnation of Osiris, and Osiris was the deified version of Nimrod, all the same person.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
So in their culture, they believe that they're taking on this possession. So that, I think that would give a little bit of an answer to that, because they have this relationship with these demons and give authority to these demons to be able to work in this way. And it seems also in research that they try to stick with specific genetic lines in history of ruling families as well. So that plays into it as well. And again, how much of that goes back to actual Nephilim genes, and how much of that goes to soul ties and intergenerational connections with working with these creatures, I don't know, but it seems like it all somehow plays a part to it.
Yeah.
So they take the body of Gilgamesh with the modern technology, the CRISPR gene program. They're able to create a clone, and this clone won't be a giant. It will be a normal-sized human being, so as not to freak people out. And then they can do a ritual, a cult ritual, where they summon this creature from out of the abyss to merge with this body. And she said that they perfected that, and that it was perfect when they did that, because there's no rejection. So all of a sudden, and she said that they could grow the body to any age, just like Avatar. And she said that when she saw it done, they would oftentimes mature them to the age of like 35 or even 40 years old when they would do this process. The body would be that age when the soul would come into it, kind of thing. And I even found a Popular Mechanics article one time that said this. It said, forget Jurassic Park. We now have the technology to bring back pharaohs from the ancient past, with cloning. And my understanding, and from my experience, they don't say stuff like that unless they've already done it.
Yeah. There's got to be some sort of backing to.
They've already accomplished. When they say, "Oh, we possibly in the future will have the ability to do this," no, they have that ability now and are doing it now. So yeah, they're going to bring down. After they found the body of Gilgamesh, guess what happened 1 month later? You ready?
Yep.
The U.S. went to war with Iraq. Oh, the excuse of weapons of mass destruction. And by the way, not only were there no weapons of mass destruction, Iraq had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11 at all. Even those are the excuses why we were going to war and attacking them, right? Now, on the first night of that war, guess what happened? Some soldiers wearing all black with no insignia, that means more than likely U.S. Special Forces, attacked the Iraqi Museum. The Iraqi Museum on the first night of the Gulf War. Now, this place has hundreds of priceless artifacts and gold. They only stole the possessions from one exhibit, and one exhibit only. And what was that?
The Gilgamesh.
It was the personal artifacts of Nimrod. And some claims I've heard that there were rituals on there spelled out on how
the possessions of Nimrod,
like how to bring him back, kind of thing.
Okay.
And if you study the history, now the story of Gilgamesh, he was obsessed with becoming immortal, to live forever, to become like the angels. That was his obsession, right? And his sole purpose with all his strength to try and achieve that. Nimrod, on the other hand, all the prophecies of Nimrod was that he will return to life in the future after death. In fact, the title of Jesus is the sun god. Title of Nimrod was the sun god. Even though one is like son, and one is like my child, right? Still sun god. Another thing is a title of Jesus is he who was, who is, and who always will be. A title of Nimrod was he who was not, and shall be again. See? So there's a lot of similarities, and no matter how deep you want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, after we discover the body of Gilgamesh, a month later we go in this war with Iraq. We steal these possessions from the Iraqi museum, and you can research all that, by the way.
No, I vaguely remember hearing about it, and like you said, special forces, CIA, stuff like that, which only makes sense because the things that I've been talking about on my second half of my uploads every day is a lot of the conspiracy, CIA involvement with the Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati and stuff like that, and they're deep into it, which is scary.
Yeah, right. So and see, I tie 9/11 into all this, the Twin Towers, because if you look at a lot of occult symbolism, it's always representing two towers, one meaning like male energy, one meaning female energy. Okay. And what that is in Satanism, they believe that when you mix the male energy with the female energy, you get new life. So it's like the two become one. All right. Male and female create new life. And of course we see this, we understand this in nature and Christianity and all that anyway. Well, so I tie this in that the Twin Towers represented that male and female energy, and the two became the one, that it was a prophecy. And you can find the same prophecy in many other ways. And I spelled that out on my channel, on my show when I did it. And I won't go into all that detail. And I used a lot of pictures and stuff like that too to help for it to make sense. But remember, the two towers were destroyed, and they built what in its place? The One World Tower.
So would that be the Tower of Babel?
No. Okay. But hold on to that 1 second. So the two towers in the new tower, it's even twisted like a helix. Like the two are pushed to become one, right? Yep. Or like DNA, right? So I claim that it's a prophecy. And what prophecy is it? It's the prophecy of Revelations chapter 9/11. And the prophecy of Revelations chapter 9/11, right here, I'll pull it up real quick. It says that, and my phone's already on it. Can you believe that? That's crazy.
There are no coincidences.
Right. So it says this: they have a king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon. In Greek, it's called Apollyon, which in Latin is going to be Apollo. The first woe is past. Behold, two woes are still to come. The sixth angel blew his trumpet, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar before the Lord say to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, then it says, so the four angels were released, who had been held ready for the hour, the day, the month, and the year to kill 1/3 of all mankind. All right? So I claim this. What was 9/11? 9/11 was a mass, public, satanic, human sacrifice ushering in what? This Bible verse. They are declaring the time of the Antichrist to reign in the world and the earth is now. Now. Here. Now. And that's what I claim it is. Then right after that, they discover the body of Gilgamesh, right? How crazy is that?
That is pretty crazy. That's pretty mind. Wow.
Now, I'll remind you of something else, too. Do you remember a while back? You remember when Jesus was born, you had the star constellations that basically showed the coming of Jesus, like the Magi and the kings, right?
I vaguely remember that through church
So
school and stuff like that.
that whole constellation was eerily mimicked again recently, just a few years ago. Okay, on no, I'm see if I pull this up. November 2016, September 17th of November 2016. They have the Revelation sign. People who are listening can look this up. They can look up the Revelation. Just look up Revelation 12 sign, September 23rd, 2017. 2017. Revelation 12 sign, September 23rd, 2017. And you will see that the coming of Christ is mimicked again with the woman clothed by the sun above the stars, and a body coming through, a planetary body coming through the birth canal, showing that a great king is coming. However, it was the king of war this time. So again, the devil always mimics what God does. And just as the constellation showed the coming of Jesus, it also showed the coming, I claim, of when they performed the ritual that brought the Antichrist back into this world.
Do you know how hard that is for, like, if someone didn't, like, really, like, think about this stuff a lot?
Right.
It's so hard for someone to just wrap their mind around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it makes sense. And that's the scariest part about it, is that it does make sense.
Yeah, and ask me why I left the state police to become to become a religious and a priest at one time. And the answer to that is because God gave me visions about all of this stuff coming. And that's what started me on the research of all this and everything else. And in a nutshell, the Lord told me in August of 1996, I was in a religious order in Cheshire, Connecticut. And I went in to pray in the chapel one day, and all of a sudden this information just, boom, popped in my head. And it said that, in a nutshell, it said that in the near future, the United States is going to fall. And it's going to fall completely and utterly, and it'll never be what it once was again. And it said the reason it's going to fall is because our politicians are selling us out. Called them Judases. It said the reason our politicians are selling us out is because they're creating a one world government, a new world order. This one world government, this new world order, will be headed by the Antichrist that's foretold to come in sacred scripture. And it will be like Nazism on a worldwide scale.
Yeah.
And then it told me that there will be a sign before the rapid rise of the Antichrist to power will be a new and great schism that will take place in the Catholic Church. And right now with Francis, I think that many Catholics would agree that that's going on right now. I am no fan of Francis whatsoever. I think he's completely evil for many reasons.
Did you see the speaking of Francis?
Yeah.
When he just disappeared?
No.
There was it was during COVID.
Yeah.
And he was outside or in his window.
He was outside. It's called a Wednesday address, and he started to go back in, and then he disappeared.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
I did see that. Yeah.
What the heck?
I did see that.
I mean, there's been people saying like possibly a hologram, but he was very solid.
Right.
You know, like that was just and I've watched that video. I've slowed it down. I've
right.
That's pretty creepy. That's a scary video to watch.
It is very creepy. I have seen that, and I don't have an explanation for that, other than I do not think that he is a good or holy person.
No. Is it like the Black Pope?
Right. Well, the Jesuits actually had, and he's a Jesuit.
Yeah.
The Jesuits actually have an unwritten rule that no Jesuit should ever become a pope. And I think we understand why. Not to mention, since we're on that line, Saint Francis of Assisi. Now he claimed to take the name of Saint Francis of Assisi, right?
Yeah.
Which I claim that's not true. Well, I mean, he claims that publicly, but I say there's a secret reason for something else. But he claims to have taken the name of Saint Francis of Assisi because of the poor, right?
Yeah,
which I think he's using the poor as a manipulation. But Saint Francis
was like he was like a friend to animals and to humans alike. He was like just a
he had the ability. He's one of the most beloved like saints, even by Protestants and things like that.
Yeah,
he had the ability to speak to animals, but also he had the stigmata, which means he had all the wounds of Christ.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had the wounds of Christ. It didn't happen until when I was in college, I was wanting to join a Franciscan order, so I studied everything I could find on the life of Francis and any sources about it.
I got something funny really quick. I don't mean to cut you off, but I got to tell you this. You'll get a kick out of this. So, my one of my family members went to Siena, which is a Franciscan college down in New York, and so St. Francis is just huge. Well, one of my cousins, who is an absolute idiot, was the family member is gay, and my cousin and I were all there, and we were just hanging out, and he had this the St. Francis book, and my cousin looks at it and he goes, St. Francis Assisi, and he goes, what's that book about? And I looked at him and I'm like, you really are an idiot, aren't you? I'm like, oh my God. I figured you'd get a kick out of that, but I'll never forget that. St. Francis of Assisi. What's that about?
Right. Yeah, so I've actually been there. It's Assisi in Italy, and when you go there, man, it's like you just stepped back into ancient time. It has that feel about the place. It's amazing. But yeah, Saint Francis was amazing, and he made a prophecy on his deathbed. That is an actual official prophecy. I have a book somewhere, and one of my books that actually has the quote that's come down through the centuries. But he made a prophecy on his deathbed that there would be a future false pope that would not be a pastor, but would be a destroyer. And I think it's no coincidence that it's the pope that took the name of that great saint.
Yeah,
so
that only makes sense. And like you were saying Jesuit and stuff like that, and I was reading somewhere just recently. I got an email just recently. I don't know if I told you this, but it's like 360 pages of just knowledge, and I've been sharing it. Yeah. And I remember reading about the Black Pope, and I was just like, wow, that's scary. That's really scary, because you don't think...
I've always heard rumors on that, but I've never come across any actual information on it. But yeah.
You don't think of something like that being in the most holiest land, like it is scary.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I've always heard where the God is, the devil's going to be there just as much too. There's an old story that this old hermit went to this town, and there was this holy man that lived in this town, and he's throwing rocks at his house. And the guy comes out and he's like, "Why are you throwing rocks at my house?" And he's like, "Because I'm trying to get rid of all the demons." There was another story that similar story where God told this saint, go into this town and look at where all the demons are. And so the saint goes in this town, and he's looking around. He sees a few here or there, but nothing substantial. He's like, oh, I know, I'm going to go to the local pub, right? And sure enough, there was a few in there, but again, nothing substantial. But he's like, I don't understand what I'm looking for. And then he realizes in the distance, he can see them all in the distance, all gathered in one place. So he's like, oh, I'm going to go see. That's it. That's the place. Well, let me see what that is. It was the local monastery where the seminarians were.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? So, yeah. And for I'll just throw this out there. There's a lot of people that don't like Catholics and all this kind of stuff, and I can't blame them for a lot of stuff that's going on and happened. But keep in mind, the devil does anything he can to destroy and to accuse. There are still good Catholics and good Christians out there that are well-meaning and have a heart to love and serve God.
Absolutely.
And as long as you're trying to serve God and love people, then you've got common ground and kinship. You know what I mean? So let God sort it out. But I tell you what, something else people are not aware of, that there was you remember Julian Assange with WikiLeaks, right?
Yeah.
I think that guy's a doggone hero. Just like I think Edward Snowden's a hero. But anyway, Julian Assange released a WikiLeaks of Hillary, which I like to call her Hillary, because but with George Soros and Obama, where the three of them are talking, and this is the private email that Julian Assange released to the public. No wonder they're trying to kill that man so much now. But anyway, it said in that email that she said, I hate Catholics because they're one of the biggest constituents against me, that are always causing the problems against me, my campaign, my election, and et cetera, et cetera. And she said that what we did in the Arab Spring, taking credit for the Arab Spring in Egypt, she said that was so successful that we should use the same covert spy tactics, if you will, against the Vatican, and we should replace the existing pope with another person that's not going to serve the church and God, but will serve our own personal agenda.
Wow. And
I claim that's exactly 100% what took place. How weird is it that Pope Benedict steps down in such a weird and strange fashion, and then all of a sudden this guy comes in, which is not religious at all, does not lead the church in any kind of faith, morals, or religious way, but is a politician that leads it through politics and all the political agendas that he's aligned with. And not only that, he refuses to meet with like holy cardinals and bishops that want to meet with him, but instead he meets with like all the who's who of the globalists and the Illuminati.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, how crazy is that?
It is crazy.
So showing his alignment and what he's aligned with an entirely different new church. And Catholics always say, well, we've got to be faithful to the chair of Peter. Yeah. And I say, well, that's true, but there's more to being faithful to the chair of Peter than the one person that's sitting there. What about all the ones that came before him? Because I say one cannot come that undoes and overturns what all the others collectively said before him.
Here's something, though, that I've always kind of, lived by, is the Catholics, the chair of St. Peter, but one of the commandments is thou shalt not worship any false prophets or false idols. So, I mean, yes, the Pope is the Pope, but he's not God and he's not Christ.
Right. Well, that's a whole theological discussion and topic that I can't do justice with in a short time.
No, I know.
But I would argue for being amateur scholar at best, but being a scholar on some of that stuff on and studying ancient texts and history and stuff that most people just don't have the time to do with their careers and jobs and families that they have to deal with.
Who's the Pope that had a heart attack just recently, within the last 30 years?
Oh, I don't even know.
Was it Pope John Paul?
I know John Paul I had a very short reign.
Yeah, didn't he die of a heart attack or something?
I honestly don't know. It was before my time.
Okay.
But I know more about JP2, but I know he had a very short reign, and that could very well be. I just don't know, honestly.
I'll have to dig through that email, because there was something about, it was about Pope John Paul, the first.
Right.
With having a heart attack and some sort of black pope after him or something like that. I'll dig.
Well, there's a prophecy called the Malachi prophecies, and the Malachi prophecy said that there would only be, basically, if you follow that prophecy, only one pope left.
Okay.
Which is this one. So he basically said. Now, what was neat, the story of Saint Malachi, this one, is that he went to visit Rome to make a pilgrimage, and he stepped into the Vatican, St. Peter's, for the first time, and he was hit with this vision. And he wrote down the vision, where he successfully named all the popes that would be one after another in line, and also wrote something that attributed something about their personality or their nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's called the Saint Malachi prophecy. And it's so far, if you follow that prophecy, this is the last pope we have right now. And he says that's it. That's the last one. So
that's scary if the globalists actually did what you suggest, because that's, I mean, the Vatican in Rome is just it's a entity of its own, you know, with just so much history, so much knowledge, and who really knows what's under the Vatican, you know? I mean, you've got an angel that's under the Euphrates. I'd hate to know what is under the Vatican, because
I've been at the ground floor of the Vatican. I have not been under the ground floor, but I've been at the ground where it's like dirt. And you have a bunch of, it's called the Scabby Tour. And you have to have kind of like little connections to get in there, but and it's far in advance to try and get on the tour. But they will take you on the ground level, and in there's a bunch of pagan tombs, because it was a pagan site before it became Catholic.
Yeah.
And then outside of those pagan tombs, you have all these Catholic tombs that are right next to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's at the dirt ground floor. But yeah, there's many rumors of what's buried underneath that.
Well, that's what I mean, because it was a pagan place, and who knows what's, you know, I mean, you always to overcome evil, you put something holy and good in its place. And
that's the idea. Yeah. That's the idea. Like a lot of times people say, oh, there's all this pagan stuff in Christianity. Well, yes, that's true, because the church would take pagan things and try to make them holy. Right. Like a Christmas tree. People are like, you can't have a Christmas tree. That was pagan, man. That came from the Druids and stuff, right? But no, that's the church teaches we take over pagan stuff. Because here's the thing, you're trying to assimilate a culture. So you're going to assimilate things that are known to that culture, that are familiar to that culture, that are even cultural to that culture. But you try to put a different twist or spin on it to try and make it a holy thing as opposed to an unholy thing.
Right.
To where now we're using this tree to worship Jesus and his coming, instead of, oh, we're using it for a pagan fertility god, you know?
Yeah. Like I'd heard just growing up that, you know, with the Vatican, when it was built, and like you said, to assimilate, and, you know, just they had taken like old statues of like Zeus or Apollo or something and turned them into, you know, statues of Christ or whatnot, and this and that. And I was like, well, that makes sense, because you kind of want to get rid of the bad and bring in the good. Right.
Yeah. So
where is the Tower of Babel?
The Tower of Babel. Okay, so
on that one.
Yeah. Right. So the Tower of Babel, I claim, as well as many others who are much smarter than I am, I claim is the Sarin Hadron Collider under Switzerland and France. CERN. CERN. Now, by the way, CERN is a acronym. It's a short abbreviation for a larger name that is spelt the same way, Ceranos. Ceranos is a druid god, is a horned god of the underworld who comes back into this world to bring us destruction. Ceranos. So I claim Sarin is just an abbreviation for Ceranos, the horned god.
And the tower doesn't have to be standing straight up.
No, in fact, the tower had nothing to do. That was only like a child's story. Hey, Mom, where do babies come from? It was a child's story, so people could understand a basic concept of it. It wasn't something to try and reach the heavens physically, or at least tall wise. It was to try to reach the heavens through an interdimensional opening and gateway.
Right.
And that's what it was. Also, CERN, the CERN Hadron Collider, is built on an ancient site that was dedicated to a temple site dedicated to Apollo, which is another name for Osiris, which is another name for Nimrod, which is another name for, I claim, Gilgamesh. I try to tie Gilgamesh into those in the claim, but that we absolutely know. Also, on top of that, if you look at the symbol that CERN uses, it's literally a 666 that's superimposed on each other. So if you put 3 666s together
right on top of each other,
now you've got the symbol for CERN. Okay.
Yeah.
Now here's some other crazy things about it. I watched a video one time that was a documentary on the scientists at CERN and what they were doing. And as they're joking around, this guy's writing on a notebook, and on the notebook, as they're talking about what they're doing at CERN, the camera zooms in on the notebook, and it shows him opening a gateway to hell. And I'm like, is that supposed to be a joke? Is that supposed to be funny?
I think you told me that. Yeah.
Now, then on top of that, if you look at these scientists at CERN created a music video. All right, how many scientists working at like top labs create music videos of themselves, right?
That I know.
But they created a music video, and in this music video, they call it Synergy. Synergy. You can look that up. Synergy. All right. And if you watch these videos, if it doesn't make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
All right. It is creepy. They're doing these very weird and strange dances in these videos. And it's called symmetry. Now, the reason of that is, remember, they have a statue dedicated in the front of CERN, like at the business side. If you like drive up to visit there, this is one of the first things you're going to see. They've got a statue of a Hindu god called Shiva. All right. Now, Shiva dances through dimensional gateways to bring destruction to the earth. Sound familiar?
Yeah. Is she the one with the arms?
It's actually hermaphrodite, as far as I know, male, female.
Okay, is it the one with the arms, like the multiple?
Yeah, it's got multiple arms, right? Yes. It's got multiple arms, and that's where the synergy dance comes from. It's the dance of Shiva. So, in other words, when they're showing you a physical dance, they're telling you we're open dimensional portals to other dimensions. That's our purpose. That's what we're doing.
That's so Luciferian.
That's the whole point. It's completely Luciferian, right? It's completely Luciferian.
I remember when I first found out about that, and I wasn't afraid. Like, I actually was afraid of it, not because of, like, I didn't really think into the context of what we were talking about now, but I was afraid of the destruction of the planet. Like, I was just like, what are we doing stuff like that for underground? Like that.
And it's a good reason you say that, because what you're referring to is some discussion that was going on, because CERN said that they had the ability possibly to create what's called micro black holes, right? Now, Stephen Hawking, as well as some other well-known physicists, but Stephen Hawking warned that this is extremely dangerous, and we should not be risking that at all. You could accidentally unintentionally create a black hole that could suck our entire planet into it.
Yeah.
And that's not the kind of thing you want to play around with.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
So he was warning them that they should not be doing this at all. By the way, this place this is the most advanced research center built in the history of the world. This is no small feat. It took them decades to build it, and at extreme cost. And the United States paid for half of it. Literally, straight up paid for half of it themselves. But there's so many connections. The more you study this, the darker it gets. First of all, Switzerland had a tunnel opening where they filmed a big ceremony that they did. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, and what it looks like at the ceremony, it looks like, oh, this is the coming of the Antichrist, a horned god. It's horrible. It's horrible. The Swiss tunnel opening video. All right,
it's probably on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it is.
All right,
yeah,
I'll have to look it up and watch it.
Right. So the more you look at it, the more craziness you find. I've heard people say that there's languages that are on display at Sarin under like glass cases.
I've heard that too.
No one even, it's so old, no one even knows what the language is.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it doing there?
Or possibly not even from here.
Right, right. And now that brings up something else. Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk has been warning people that what are the billionaire elites doing? They're meeting in secret saying that they're contacting entities from other dimensions that are telling them they're going to give us technology for us to become gods and live forever as long as we're really willing to kill off the rest of humanity.
Yeah, the elite 1%.
Does that sound familiar?
The 1%, baby.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it does.
That's almost the same thing that the devil told Adam and Eve in the garden. It's like he can't even come up with a new racket. It's the same old shtick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You know, like you said, you know, he's just always trying to, you know, replay, you know, trying to copy God with the second coming, and you know, if it didn't work this time, maybe it'll work the next time.
Right. And also with Sarin is connected AI. They bought one of the D-Wave computers that runs the whole thing that makes it work. And Elon Musk has also warned us about the great dangers of AI, where he says that he literally says we are summoning demons.
Wait, so artificial intelligence is running Sarin? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Oh. Yeah. They have to have the AI in order to run their computers.
My heart just skipped like 100 beats. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. Yep.
And Elon Musk literally was quoted as saying they are using AI to summon demons. He said that.
Mm-hmm.
He also went on to say that with this AI, he said this AI technology is more dangerous than any nuclear weapons could ever be. Yeah. And he said that we could literally create an overlord that we can never escape from.
Yeah.
Then Neil deGrasse Tyson and Stephen Hawking also said that AI was a greater threat to humanity than nuclear weapons.
I remember Neil saying that actually. And Jesus, that is terrifying, man. I don't like AI. It creeps me out. I never liked it. It's just, you know.
Yeah, well, get ready. You know what was in the news today? There's an article I sent out today to my circle of people I talk to every day about news stuff. And it was about the right-hand man to, what's his name? Carl Schwab. You know, Carl Schwab with the World Economic Forum, right?
Yeah.
Right here it says, historian and author, and I'm going to butcher this, it's Yuval, Yuval, Harari, Yuval Harari, a top advisor to Klaus Schwab's and member of that World Economic Forum, is being called out online as one of the key players in the globalist Great Reset agenda. Well, when it comes to high-tech surveillance and integration of the human body with computers, AI, and other futuristic technology, Herrera isn't shy about where he thinks we're headed. He's basically saying we're going to merge with technology to become gods through AI, and he also says that it's going to eliminate free will. And this is Carl Schwab's right-hand guy.
Send me that link, will you, please?
Will do.
Thank you. That's terrifying, man. I don't know. Humanity now, in our steps of you know.
What they're talking about the mark of the beast technology and transhumanism.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about.
It just seems like every time we make a quote unquote greater step in technology, it's just something evil, you know. It's terrifying to me. To me, it's absolutely terrifying, and that's another reason why I wanted to start talking about these conspiracies and things like that, because I think that everything is connected, and you know, if you talk about one thing, you got to talk about it all. That's the way I'm looking at it. But
right. And the World Economic Forum unveils new digital ID plan.
oh, that's wonderful.
And that's right, with those guys. And see, here's what's coming next. When you talk about, like, if you get on the subject of jabs, can we say that? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I claim personally that those things, and there's, I think, lots of smarter people than me and tons of research now to back this up, that is absolute poison. It's absolute evil. It's not for health. It's for gene therapy to change and alter your genes, which, by the way, that again is not something new.
Right.
That is what the devil did in the Old Testament, in the pre-flood times. He was doing a human gene program where he was changing genes. Why? Because of, like what we said, the devil wants to recreate mankind in his own twisted image and away from the image and likeness of God himself. Yeah. And some doctors have suggested, how much genes can you alter? How much genes can you change before technically you're no longer human? Yeah. Technically you're no longer in the image and likeness of God anymore. Or technically before you're owned as under a patent to some organization or corporation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was talking about that the other day to somebody. I thought it was you, but it wasn't. But with like the CRISPR, now we are not the only people that have that. The Chinese do as well.
Oh yeah.
And I think that when they're altering these genes with that, they're doing it to create something far worse than our super soldier program.
Right.
Something that just pretty much resembles a demon that cannot be stopped. You know, like, there's just too many things. Like, okay, I had a guy on, he was sharing an encounter he had when he was over in, I believe, the first Gulf War. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about seeing a chimera.
Right.
Now, I myself, you know, he didn't want to believe what he saw, but after a while he kind of was like, wow, I really did see that. But right. I was thinking that, you know, the global elites are creating these things as their own kind of secret army, and just once in a while placing them in like a war zone where there's both sides of, you know, hey, there's inner fighting, there's fighting going on. You got Americans here, you've got Iraqis here. Put one down. Let's see what happens. Let's see how many kills of both sides.
You know that's been going on. That's been happening.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a video now that's very hard to find. It's been wiped, okay? But I had two previous videos of the ambassador of Syria going before the UN and begging the UN to stop the United States from using genetically modified soldiers in war zones in their country. Now, when I say genetically modified human, that means non-human super soldier.
Right.
He wasn't going to go before the UN and say, stop sending cryptids, monsters, and werewolves into war zones.
Exactly.
He went in there and said, stop using genetically modified soldiers. Now, China came out with an article saying they're using tons of genetically modified stuff and soldiers on their platforms and programs. Yeah. And even Putin was recorded one time as saying that one of the biggest threats to the world, aside from AI, which he also said, was genetically modified super soldiers, GMO super soldiers.
Yeah.
These are non-humans that they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're talking about non-humans. So yes, they've been creating non-humans, and they have been putting them and testing them in these programs. And that's one of the things I always wanted to try and um, tell Victor about if I'd ever talked to him, which is this. I think, for me personally, the reason that they created these Dogman programs in the dumbs in the U.S. is because of the World Economic Forum's Agenda 21, Agenda for 21st Century, which is they want to remove all people from rural areas and force them into major cities where they can be chip tracked and controlled. And how they don't have the ability to move all these people out of those rural areas. So how do you do it? By sending monsters in there that are invading species. Then that's a perfect way to scare people out of rural areas
toward the city. Yeah, it just pretty much herds them into the city. Yeah,
it's a herding program, and that's why they're being strategically released into rural areas for that purpose. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people that were eyewitnesses that claim that they've had encounters with these creatures or others. And they said their response is, I'm getting the hell out of here. And my wife said she's divorcing me if we don't move to the city, that we're moving to, larger areas of population or people where you're not going to have these problems. And that's Agenda 21. Something else people don't understand, the Great Reset. This was all done already again in China. See, who created modern China? Well, the globalists, the Rockefellers, they created modern China. They put Mao Zedong into power. They made him communist. They are the ones that pushed Mao Zedong to perform the Great Plan, kill 1 billion of his own people. All right, that's Mao Zedong of China.
There's a video on YouTube where it said world leaders who killed more people, and literally to where Hitler was, it was probably 3 to 4 times the size. Like they did a graph bar, kind of like that, and it was just like, wow. And that's that's the country that pretty much owns America now.
Now, see, that's the thing. They don't want to paint China as the real problem of our future. They want every other bad guy they can come up with. They don't want us pointing fingers at China, which is a bigger problem. However, that said, what people don't realize is this whole Great Reset we're doing right now, the Build Back Better. China was their beta test for that. It was their model. And Mao Zedong called it not the Great Reset, but the Great Plan. And what did he do in his Great Plan? Moved everyone out of rural areas and forced them into the modern cities.
These bleak gray cities.
So what they did was the globalists created that. They ran that as a test to see where they were strong, where they were weak, where they needed to improve before they did the same exact plan to the world.
Here's something. I wonder if the original kind of test subject was North Korea, because if you think about it, North Korea was not North Korea 80 years ago, 90 years ago. It was completely different. And then we interfered, and then what happened? There's been 3 generations of the same family doing the same thing, pretty similar, but without success, if you think about it.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have
There's
any
not a lot of people, if you think about that, there's not a lot of people in the countrysides. They don't, and they, if there are, they immediately come and take their food and take their stuff and then make them move into the city.
Yep.
So I wonder
it's all
if
a part of that plan.
The original globalists' plan. Listen, we're coming up on time. We're about an hour and a half in. I had a great time shooting the crap with you today. I'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely.
Just to, have another one of these gab sessions. I had fun, and I'm sure a lot of the people that are going to listen to this are going to love it as much as I did. Last thing I would say is that the
the jabs now are not the mark of the beast per se, but it's the foundation for what you need for the mark of the beast. They're finding the nanotechnology in them with the graphene oxide, and it's turning the human body into a Wi-Fi hotspot. So you don't need a phone or computer to connect to the internet or web, if you will.
Yeah.
So that when they do come out with the mark of the beast in whatever form that will be, it's going to connect everyone who accepts it into the AI system to where you will be then chipped, tracked, and controlled in everything you do. And even Bill Gates has said that, oh, this is so great. It's going to speak to you in your brain and give you instructions on what to do.
Almost like Elon Musk's plan.
Right. And he said if you obey it, then it'll reward you with money in your new digital account, and because they're going to crash the dollar. And they're going to create a one world currency. Yeah. And you're going to have this mark in order to be able to buy and sell. And that's why the mark of the beast says you have to have it to buy and sell. But it tags you to the AI system. And once you're in the AI system, you are controlled by a hive super intelligence in everything you do. In fact, there's even videos that they're playing for kids in Europe, which are disgusting. They're like little cartoons where they're telling these kids, oh, there's this new utopian future that we're building for everybody where you're going to be chipped and connected to a computer that's going to tell you where you can, who you can talk to, what job you can have, how much food you're allowed to eat, what you're allowed to eat, where you can travel, who you can associate with. And it said, oh, isn't this going to be beautiful? You don't have to worry about these problems anymore. You just have to obey.
Yeah.
Really? That's a nightmare.
That's insanity.
That's a nightmare. Yeah. And then you talked about the transhumanism on top of that, where they just want us to merge with machine, which is the opposite of what Christ says. Christ says it's not about merging with technology that we're going to find what makes us immortal. It's by perfecting the virtues and becoming holy. And by perfecting the virtues is how we become superhumans, not through technology. Right. He says they'll never find it.
No, you've got to find it within yourself and within Christ.
That's it.
So, all right, brother. It was awesome having you on.
All right, folks, an oldie but goodie with John Bell. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel, guys. It's your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, our family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those who love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.